don't think shame is the right word we should bring back,
Yeah,
but we
yeah,
do need accountability for women because we have such a big responsibility. Yes, men have a responsibility too, but as the womb carriers, as you call it, B. Taylor, we have to be a step ahead and we have to think ahead. In my culture in Trinidad, we have to go to premarital counseling before you get married.
People are praising it. Like it's almost like there are definitely way more weddings. I mean, way more baby showers than weddings. And a lot of these baby showers, like it's like a whole gender reveal, which is like then it's like a whole baby shower, and these things be full on production. So like no one's being held accountable. Like if we brought back, not to say shame, but yeah, shame. Like I had a kid out of wedlock too. So I remember when I went to go bring my baby to get blessed at the church, the pastor had I not like the pastor one of the pastors told me that they don't baptize babies that are born out of wedlock.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to tell you
yeah.
no on that.
That's
That's
what I'm saying.
disgusting.
But that was one time when I was like, well, damn. You know what I mean? Like, like I know that I had made a bad decision for myself by not what being married first, even though we had a date set. We planned my daughter. Like she wasn't an accident. We just knew, and at that time you couldn't tell us that we weren't going to be married, so it was just like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. But when we went to the church and they said, and that was part of the reason why I was like, yeah, no, I'm done with religion.
I
I'm
would have been done
good
too.
on
That's
that.
disgusting.
Like, yeah. So
Or the
like
pastor be cheating on his damn wife with all types of women in the pulpit, but
that's a
that's
whole different
Little
conversation.
boys.
But my
boys.
point is, we need to bring back some kind of shame because as messed up as that was, it really made me, I mean, that and the shit that my mother said to me when I first told her. Okay. So like it definitely makes you, no one's holding these women accountable. Like, and a lot of times, like our moral compass is off. We're completely out of order, like with the way we're conducting ourselves out here. So like people really try to sugarcoat it and give people grace when folks need to know, like, no, you're out of order and what you're doing is affecting us because the statistics ain't getting no better for us. You're not making us look any better by doing this. Like it's more broken homes. Like she may be in a better place financially to provide her children with like a bright future, but it's still not a good look on us.
I think
Yeah.
shame is there. When I was my first child, like I had shame. I didn't want to take no photo. I didn't want to post nothing. Like people barely saw me. And I regretted that. I regretted not really celebrating my child, regardless of how it's being brought into the world. My child is innocent. My child didn't ask to be here. My child had nothing to do with my decisions. So therefore, me not celebrating its life is I'm taking something away from the child's innocence because of my shame. I'm letting my shame define me, define how I'm going to be a mother, and define how I love my child. Because us, a lot of women who are walking around shamed and pregnant, and they end up having the baby. They don't have no bond. A lot of people don't talk about that. It's like you have that baby, you look at it like it's something to be shameful and embarrassed of. You look at it something like you're not proud of your child, or you can't even bond correctly with your child and love your child correctly. There's a lot of women who give birth to their children and be like, I don't have no connection to it. They look at it like it's a burden. So what do y'all say about that? Because y'all say in the same breath, bring back shame, but there's a lot of women who bring in children and shame of them, or desert them, or dump them in a dumpster, or have them in a bathroom and leave them there on prom night or something like that. Like those are cases that definitely still happen. So is that something that's like, I
You
feel like
know,
if they're gonna bring back shame,
so
bring back.
I don't think shame is the right word we should bring back,
Yeah,
but we do
yeah,
need accountability for women because we have such a big responsibility. Yes, men have a responsibility too, but as the womb carriers, as you call it, B. Taylor, we have to be a step ahead and we have to think ahead. In my culture in Trinidad, we have to go to premarital counseling before you get married. And I'm very sorry, Lady Mogulette, of what that pastor said. That was absolutely inappropriate. But you, yeah, that was absolutely inappropriate. But before my husband and I got married, we went through extensive counseling and we were asked questions that we didn't even think about. We were like, what? So from that point on, I'm like, okay, I have a little bit of a foundation on what to expect in marriage. Now, things are going to get indifferent. Things are going to get mundane. And I sometimes don't like when people say, well, now we're just doing the regular old thing. But that's part of the ebbs and flows of a relationship. And if Summer Walker has left because of that reason, I don't know the reason why, but if it's for that reason, I think that is just not okay, because there are different stages of a relationship. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be complete boring days where you're just like, what the heck where are we going? But you're supposed to fight for your relationship, for your child. That's why marriage, when it comes to children, is so important, because that piece of paper pushes you to keep going. Of course, if abuse or cheating or all that stuff happens, it's a different story. But if it's well, he doesn't do what I want, or I don't want to do what he says, or what have you, that I just think that's weak.
I'm gonna go ahead and play the video. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to speak to the point of, like, about the church and the celebrating and feeling shame. I think when there's a level of shame, I think it's because it typically is when you know better and you choose not to. I ain't gonna say choose not to do better, but you didn't necessarily follow what it is that you were taught. Like for me, when I initially got pregnant, like I ended up marrying my son's father, but that's not necessarily the typical situation, right? But I remember when I got pregnant, I didn't necessarily enjoy the pregnancy so much when I first found out, is because I knew I did it out of order. So I was ashamed. I didn't want to say anything to my grandmother. I didn't want to say anything to my mother, because I know what their teachings were, right? So I think a lot of times we feel shame when we act outside of what we better than, know to do better than. And then in church, again, I grew up in, a church household like many of us. And it was normal practice. Now, I know we've become more modern, so to speak, but I think in a church, there is a level, a standard that I grew up under, that, like, if you got pregnant out of wedlock, like, you're not going to be singing in the church choir anymore. Sit down, because we don't want this to become the norm in this space. You know what I mean? We're not going to, have, baptize, which that part I'm a little iffy on, because it's about the kid when you're having a christening, to give him the covering of God. So that part I don't necessarily agree with, but from their perspective is, we don't necessarily want to celebrate the having the out of wedlock kid in church. We're standing up here pretending as if you guys are a family, on, quote unquote, when you don't have the legitimacy in terms of being married. Or even baby showers. I remember when I got pregnant, or even my sister, when she got pregnant, my grandmother was like, no, I'm not coming. And I'm not, giving you anything in regards to that, because again, it happened out of order. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with setting those boundaries or expectations. Like I did that with my daughter. I told her if she ever came home pregnant, she's going to have to choose which one is going to be taken care of. Is it her, or is it going to be the baby? Because I ain't taking care of both. I ain't signed up for both. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of preached a lot of those things in her to make sure she prioritized her birth control, so she won't end up in that situation.
But I mean, this is taking it a little deeper than that. But I think that that's sex, period. I mean, that's the whole white before your wedding. Like you should be wearing white on your wedding and you wearing cream. I think that it's more than just having a baby. It's about opening your legs before you have a husband.